Good morning from a very calm Martinique. It's Sunday morning, 7 a.m, and we are slowly coming into our port of Martinique, where we're going to be doing an island tour and beach and various other things. So of course we'll take you along with you. Today I'll make sure I remember my camera, but for now we are going to enjoy the quiet morning, drinking our coffee and then relaxing as we watch ourselves come into port. So I'll be back with you just as we are docking.
Hi, we're James and Rob, and this is our dog Oscar. We love travel in all its forms, so join us on our next adventure as we head out on the road again.
We are slowly coming into dock on this port here, and then I guess we wander up there to the main part of Martinique. Say hello, James, you're in the camera.
Good morning.
Martinique looks, like I said, fairly built up, but it's a Sunday today, so everything is going to be shut, so it will be interesting to see what it's all like. Welcome to Martinique Port. We are just leaving the ship, walking to meet wherever our tour leaves from. Actually, the port looks really pretty compared to most ports, and it looks like you can walk into town from here, although they said on a Sunday everything is shut here, so you need to go to the other side of the island, which I guess is probably where we're headed. Anyway, let's find out.
Now, before we jump into showing you the actual tour, let me just tell you a little bit about it. Again, we booked this through Shore Excursion Group, or you can also book it through Vitor, or you can book it through Celebrity themselves. And as you know, you're going to pay a little bit more money, but you'll also have peace of mind that you will never miss the ship leaving in case your tour is late getting back. So this bus tour included visiting lots of sites of the northern part of Martinique, including visiting churches, amazing waterfalls, and also the fascinating town of Pierre, which used to be the capital until a volcano erupted and basically destroyed the city. Definitely worth doing. There was quite a lot of hustle and bustle at the beginning. We had to sort of stand in a certain tent, wait for everybody to arrive before we got onto the bus, but I guess that's sort of standard with tours, and this was a very hot day, so that was a little unpleasant but not too bad. So anyway, let's get on with the tour.
For some years the island was French, then it was English. It was never Spanish, but it was always a little war between the French and the English. La route de la Trace. Basically, it was the first road that the French built, and it was the road to go from the north to the center of the island, around 40 kilometers. Of course, in the old time, as you can imagine, it was not like it is nowadays. It was built by a French gentleman who was in love with all flowers, plants. You have around more than 1,000 different plants.
We're now at a famous river where people come to bathe and drink the water. You can see someone down there bathing in the water, and it's a little bit cooler up here, not quite so humid, because we're driven quite high up into the mountains, so though it is quite hot in the sun. So let's go and have a look over here, see what the water's doing.
River running down.
We were going to go for a paddle, but we haven't got the right footwear with us or towels, so it is quite cold, but I'm sure it's also extremely refreshing. A way to get a free massage. We are now at our next stop, which is the Saint-Germain waterfall. So a few steps down. This is a very pleasant walk here
It's like we're walking through the jungle to get to the waterfall. Coming up some more steps. I think this is as far as we're going to go. Pardon? We're going to get wet feet. We decided not to risk getting our shoes wet, so this is as far as we're going to go. The waterfall that you can just see through the trees. It's a little bit cooler up here because it's a bit cloudy and obviously we're quite high up, but it's still humid because we're at the beginning of October, so if you want to get away from the humidity you need to come here in a few months' time. But then again, it's the peak of the season, so apparently it's super busy and super crazy because of course they're just at a few tourist spots that people want to visit on Martinique, so all the tour buses are taking everybody there. So even today where it's Sunday and it's off-peak season, it's still fairly busy, but the tour guide was saying how busy the traffic can get and the roads can get, so a tour that would take 2 or 3 hours can end up taking 3 or 4 hours because of how busy the roads are. So if you're planning your trip during the peak season, bear that in mind if you're taking one of these organised tours. And she also said that the road that we came down to get here, if you're in a big bus, they actually have to reverse all the way down because there's no point for them to turn, and that would be pretty scary, I think. But anyway, we're in a small minibus, so that wasn't so much of an issue. So we're going to head back to the bus now and go to our next port of call, wherever that might be. So we're now at a rum distillery and we're going to go and have a look around and a bit of a tasting. So we are just going to have a wander around the distillery, and it is a roasting hot, but it is beautiful. Ooh, blimey, that is warm. So we are at Rum Distillery, and it's very, very pretty here. Just a lot hotter than when we were up at the waterfall in the mountains. Here's a little bit of the story, if you can read French, telling you how
preparation of the cane, first roll, second roll, third roll, fourth roll,
and on to there, and then to fermentation. So this rum apparently has some special, what do they call it? VSOP kind of.
not VSOP, how do you call it?
Some kind of label which means that it's special rum that is only made in Martinique and shipped to Europe. Yeah, so that apparently the chateau up ahead is where the slave owner would live, and then the little huts around it apparently, which I can't see, probably over there, are where the slaves would live. As staggering as all that is, the huts where the slaves used to live, and then this is the main part of the distillery. A bit more story of how the sugar cane is harvested and then basically milled 4 times to get the sweet juices. Sweet juices. That looks like something out of Jules Verne, doesn't it? Look at that.
Burned for so many days and just instantly, because it was a combination of, there were lots of oak barrels with rum, constructions in wood, so plus sugar, plus whatever, so you can imagine there was nothing they could do, just everything was burning and getting destroyed.
So we're in Saint Pierre, which is where in 22nd of May 1902 there was a volcano eruption, and within 1 minute 30,000 people had passed away. And we're going to look at some of the ruins of the of what's left, which is not very much, but you can see we are overlooking this beautiful bay. We're walking into the theatre that it remains from before the earthquake. So this is the volcano that caused so much damage. So in 1 minute the flow came down to the village and destroyed everything, and this is the remains of the theatre. Here's the remains of a statue. This is what the theatre would have looked like before it was completely destroyed. So I just wanted to jump in here quickly to say that excursion was really worthwhile. We really enjoyed the day, and it certainly gave us a good flavour of Martinique, seeing everything from waterfalls to churches to the volcano and rum tasting. So I'd highly recommend it. Now, what made it really good for us, I think, is that the tour guide was so knowledgeable, really friendly, and answered all our questions. So I'd highly recommend doing that if you go to Martinique. Okay, so we're going to fast forward a few hours, a few cocktails, and we'll see you for dinner at Le Petit Chef. So tonight we are eating in what's it called?
Le Petit Chef.
Le Petit Chef in Qsine. So this is the animated meal that I will do my best to show you, and it's quite expensive to eat here. In fact, they've apparently just opened up one in Brighton that costs you £99 to eat. So we'll see whether it is a gimmick or actually a fun evening, I'm sure, but a fairly limited menu, as you can see. That's the main menu, and then you can substitute some things here. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Best experience. Please remove your personal items from the tabletop so that Le Petit Chef does not trip as he likes running around. And now, without further ado, allow me to introduce to you, all the way from France, measuring 6 centimeters, the world's smallest chef, Le Petit Chef.
So we're starting off with the French onion soup because neither of us fancied the bouillabaisse, which is a very shellfishy soup. So if you have something not on the main menu, then the animation doesn't match it, as you can see here. Okay, so we've had our first course. Now we're moving on to the next course, which is the lobster. The French onion soup was fine, but nothing to write home about really. Then the lobster arrives. Looks very nice. James has got another meal in itself, a chicken. So we'll see what it's like. Well, that was very nice. James, what was the chicken like?
A bit tough, but tasty.
We're just checking out tattoos and saying how cool it would be one day to be able to have a moving tattoo, which I'm sure you'll be able to one day. But anyway, my lobster was very nice. It's the first proper bit of lobster I've had since we've been on board. It was very tasty. Next course is the filet mignon, so we'll see what that's like. I hope our food doesn't taste like that. And here's the finished product that looks very nice. So we'll see how it tastes. And we're on to the last course. That looks rude.
Attention.
And there's the finished product, a scoop of ice cream. So what did we think of Le Petit Chef? Well, it was definitely good fun and it's super clever. But to be honest, I think it's one of those things that you're going to do once and you're probably not going to do again. Because quite honestly, for $55, if you pay for it directly at full price, which we didn't because we used it as part of our 5 dining package that we had, that we used onboard credit to buy. But if you paid $55 for that, well, it's quite a lot of money for basically a scoop of ice cream for dessert. And the lobster was lovely and the steak was nice, but we had just as good steaks, or better steaks to be quite honest, in Volano. So I think it's definitely one of those things that's worth experiencing because it's super clever and it's super fun. But in terms of like the value for money, I'm not entirely sure. And also, the only times we ever queued to get to eat anywhere was in the main dining room and here, because they have specific times when you have to go in. So they have an early sitting like at 6:30 and a later sitting at 8:30. So everyone has to obviously be in together to start at the same time. So there was a massive queue when we arrived about 6:15 to go into our 6:30 sitting. Now that's not really a big issue, it's just that I don't like queuing, and certainly when we ate at the other specialty dining restaurants we didn't have to queue anyway. So what do you think about Le Petit Chef? Do leave me a comment and let me know. And of course, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure that you have subscribed, you have hit the bell so you are alerted when our next video comes out next Sunday. Talking of which, next week we're going to be in the beautiful island of St. Kitts. Now we booked an excursion with a group, but we ended up having our own private driver for the day, which was really interesting. We learned a lot and we did a few things that weren't on the itinerary. So make sure you have subscribed and we will see you next week in St. Kitts for the next episode of On the Road Again.